Zandvoort is one of those tracks that looks simple on the map. It isn't. There aren't many huge braking zones, there aren't a ton of obvious overtaking spots, and most of the lap feels like one corner immediately feeding into the next. And that's really the key to being quick here. You're not trying to win every individual corner, you're trying to keep the car flowing. And especially on a controller, the biggest thing I found is that the less I fight the car around Zandvoort, the faster I go. So in this guide, I'm going to take you around the circuit corner by corner, show you where I'm braking, what gears I'm using on a controller, and where I'm sacrificing entry speed and where you really need to commit. Again, I'm driving on a controller, manual gears, and using T-cam, so this isn't going to be a complicated engineering lesson. This is just how I approach the track. Coming down the main straight, the first thing to understand about Zandvoort is that turn 1 is probably going to tempt you into braking too late. It certainly tempted me. You've got a long straight, a big braking zone, and plenty of room, so naturally you think, I can get another 10 meters out of this. Usually you can't. I'm braking hard here and coming down into third gear. The important thing isn't getting the absolute latest braking point, it's getting the car slowed down early enough that I can actually rotate it. Most of my braking finished while the car's straight, then I'll carry a little bit of brake pressure toward the apex to help the front rotate. And this is something you'll hear me say a lot around Zandvoort is don't overdrive the entry. If I'm going into Tarzan too quickly, I'm sitting there waiting for the front tires to come back to me. Now I'm holding more steering, I'm later getting back at the throttle, and everything I thought I gained under braking is gone. So I'd rather brake a fraction earlier, rotate the car properly, and get back on the power cleanly. And on a controller, that's especially important. If I'm holding the stick almost all the way over through the middle of the corner, I know I went too fast. And turn 2 isn't really a corner I'm trying to attack, it's preparation. I'm usually around 5th or 6th, depending on the car and the setup. Small lift, maybe a touch of brake if I need it. The important thing is positioning the car for turn 3. You don't want to make some huge aggressive steering input here and then immediately ask the car to change direction again. Keep it smooth, let the car settle, because turn 3 is where it's going to get interesting. This is one of the signature corners at Zandvoort, and the banking completely changes the way you can drive it. I'm generally down around third or sometimes fourth gear. You can carry more speed into this than your brain initially tells you because the banking is helping the car. But that does not mean I just mash the throttle halfway through it. I turn in, I let the car settle into the banking, and then I start squeezing the throttle progressively. That's the important word, especially on a controller. I don't want to go for half throttle to full throttle instantly while I've still got a bunch of steering angle on the car. That's where you're asking the rear tires to do too much. And the easiest way to think about turn 3 is turn once, hold the steering, let the banking work, then unwind the wheel, or in our case, the stick, as you add throttle. And if you're constantly correcting the car through here, something probably went wrong on entry. And now we're climbing. This section is more about keeping the car settled than doing anything dramatic. I'm not trying to use every inch of road just because it's there. I'm making small steering inputs, keeping the throttle smooth, and getting ready for one of the most important parts of the entire lap. This is where Zandvoort asks whether you trust the car, and this is also where I think controller players can throw away a surprising amount of lap time. The natural reaction is to lift too much. You come over the rise, the road drops away a little bit, and you're carrying a lot of speed, and the car suddenly feels light, so you lift, and then maybe you lift again, and then you make another steering correction. Suddenly you've lost a massive amount of momentum. And what I try to do instead is to make one deliberate speed adjustment before I really commit to the corner. Maybe that's a lift, maybe it's a tiny brake. That's going to depend on the car and your setup, but once I've made those adjustments, I'm trying to trust the car. Smooth steering input, hold it, and then start bringing the throttle back. I don't want to be making 4 different decisions in the middle of the corner. That's where the controller can get messy. One lift, one steering input, and commit. And when you get this section right, it almost feels too fast, and that's going to be a good sign. And turn 8 continues that rhythm. I'm around 5th or 6th gear usually. Again, I'm not attacking the inside curve like it owes me money. The goal is maintaining momentum. Get the car positioned, make one clean steering input, and carry the speed. If you're constantly moving the stick left and right through this part of the circuit, you're probably scrubbing speed, and this is where smooth really is fast. Turn 9 is completely different, and this is one of the easiest places on the lap to ruin everything by being too ambitious. You've just come through a series of fast corners, you're confident the car feels good, then you arrive here and think you can carry that same aggression into turn 9. That's normally where the understeer starts. I'm braking earlier than I initially want to. I'm coming down to around third gear, and I'm making sure I get the front of the car rotated before asking for throttle. And if you go into turn 9 too fast, the sequence usually looks like this: you miss the apex, you add more steering, the front keeps sliding, you wait for the car, and then you're late on the throttle. And that's a terrible trade off. Give away 2 or 3 miles an hour on entry to get a clean exit, and you'll usually gain the time back immediately. And then turn 10 should almost feel easy if you've done turn 9 properly. You want a short break down to around third, maybe fourth gear, and then rotate and get the car back to power quickly. This is another place where I'm prioritizing the exit. If I'm fighting the car through turn 10, I normally don't blame it on turn 10. I go back and I look at what I did in turn 9 because these corners are connected. And that's really true throughout the whole track. And now we finally get one of the bigger traditional braking zones. I'm braking hard here, straight line. I drop down into second, maybe third gear, depending on your setup. And the key to this chicane is not attacking the first part too much. I know, it's boring advice, but it works. I want to get through turn 11 without completely destroying the car's balance because turn 12 matters more. So I'll sacrifice a little bit of turn 11, get the car across, change direction, and then get a clean exit through turn 12. And on a controller, I especially don't want to be bouncing over huge curbs and then trying to catch the car with the stick. You can do it, and sometimes you'll even get away with it, but it's not consistent. And for me, consistent is fast, and the rule here is pretty simple. I'm sacrificing 11 to make 12 easy. Turn 13 does not look like one of the most important corners on the circuit, but it absolutely is, because turn 13 determines what happens through turn 14, and turn 14 determines your speed all the way down the main straight, so a bad turn 13 can cost you time for several seconds afterward. I'm usually around fifth gear here, with a lift, maybe a small brake depending on the car. I want to get the nose in, and then I'm really concentrating on throttle application. I want to get back on the power early, but I don't want wheel spin. And I don't want to run myself so wide that I have to lift again. And that's the trap. You get excited, you go to full throttle, the car runs wide, and now you've got to come off the throttle. And if turn 13 was right, this should be simple. This is basically part of the straight. The banking lets you carry a ton of speed through here. And once I'm committed, I don't want to lift. I don't want to make a bunch of little steering corrections either. I just want the car settled. One steering input and let it run through the banking and accelerate. Even unnecessary correction here costs you speed all the way down the straight because turn 1 is your biggest overtaking opportunity. That matters in the race as well. A clean turn 13 and 14 isn't just about lap time, it sets up the next lap. If you're learning Zandvoort, I wouldn't try to perfect all 14 corners at the same time. I'd break it down into three main areas. First, turns 6 through 8. That's your confidence section. If you're lifting too much there, you're giving away a lot of time. Second, turns 11 and 12. That's the precision section. It's not about bravery, it's about placing the car properly. And third, turns 13 and 14. That's your exit speed section. Get turn 13 right, and you carry that speed through the final corner and all the way down the main straight. Those three sections alone can completely change your lap. So, that's Zandvoort. It's not really a track about massive braking points or throwing the car over curbs. It's about rhythm. Be patient into turn 1, trust the car through the middle of the lap, and don't overdrive into turn 9. Sacrifice the first part of the chicane and get turn 13 right. Because if you can nail 13, 14 almost takes care of itself. And if you're playing F1 on a controller, don't make the track harder than it needs to be. Smooth inputs, consistent braking, and progressive throttle. And that's what makes Zandvoort work. And we'll see you on the next one.